Russia was caught in Ukraine's spider's web on Sunday evening. More than 100 drones, Ukrainian drones, targeted 5 Russian air bases. The strikes were carried out from within the Russian territory. And how exactly did Ukraine carry out these absolutely stunning drone strikes? Now, that image that you see on your television screen, now this is very interesting. These were containers, and this is, of course, AI generated. Ukraine is believed to have hired, through its people inside Russia, a factory where these drones were put together using commercially available material. And then they were loaded onto those big trucks. And 117 Ukrainian operatives inside Russia at those 5 different locations. Some of them were 4,000 kilometers apart, from the north to the south, east to the west, when they targeted 5 different air bases in Russia, and the manner in which they did. 117 drones covertly transported into Russia, concealed within these wooden log cabins or boxes mounted on container trucks. Now, the roofs of these container trucks were remotely opened. Then 117 operators controlled these drones from perhaps inside these trucks to target the strategic bombers of Russia at 5 different locations. And almost all had already been used in strikes against Ukraine or were likely to be used. And in Ukraine, it said this was a preemptive strike. So the 5 bases were either, and we will show this to you on the map in just a moment, between 2,000 to 4,000 kilometers away from the Russia-Ukraine border, deep inside Russia. Belaya, for example, as you can see in that image, Belaya is about 4,800 kilometers away. Ivanovo is 300 kilometers away from the border, from Moscow. Let me also tell you about some of the other bases that have been targeted. Diaghilevo, for example, is 200 kilometers southwest of Moscow. What were targeted? They were Tu-22 and Tu-95 bombers, an A-50 AWACS, Airborne Early Warning Command and Control System. It's Ukraine's most audacious attack on Russia yet, launched from near. Now, these massive trucks and containers, they went very close to the air bases. Then the top of the containers came off and the drones flew out and targeted the strategic bombers, the Tu-22s and Tu-95s, just a couple of kilometers away from the roadhead. And this just shows the thought process that went into it. 18 months planning. More than 40 long-range bombers have been destroyed. Like I was telling you, I want you to look at each and every place. Belaya's, for example, is about 5,500 kilometers east of the Ukraine border. That's how deep Ukraine was able to strike. Ivanovo is 300 kilometers northeast of Moscow. Diaghilevo is about 200 kilometers southeast of Moscow. Olenya, it hosts a nuclear-capable aircraft. Now, these bombers are nuclear weapons capable. They can carry a conventional warhead. They can carry a nuclear warhead. One of the biggest strikes, which is not extensively being spoken about, is the Severomorsk base, a marine base that has been targeted, and this base hosts the nuclear submarines. A damage to the submarine, we are not sure, but the base indeed has been targeted, as you can see in that image. Now, my colleague Sandeep Unnithan and I, we take you to our special studio for a moment where we try and break down Ukraine's Operation Spider, the numbers and the losses to Russia.
I'll tell you how Ukraine's special forces launched these drones to target Russian Air Force bases deep inside Russian territory. Now, Russia's strategic aircraft are parked deep inside Russian territory, something like 2,000 kilometers away from the border with Ukraine. Now, what Ukrainian special forces, what their secret service did was to send a number of containers on normal civilian trucks, which were driving past these Russian strategic Air Force bases where the aircraft are all parked in the open. On a pre-programmed signal, these trucks automatically opened these containers and launched waves of first-person view drones to attack these aircraft that are parked in the open and literally destroy them. It's a simple, effective plan, but took months of preparation, and it was all about planning and rigging up these containers so that they could be opened at the right time when the signal was given. Something like 100 drones were used, and each of them costing about $1,000. First-person view drones, quadcopters like these. And as these trucks drove close to the Russian Air Force bases, they were launched in swarms, and they went and they destroyed these parked aircraft. This is one of the largest deep penetration such raids in the history of Special Forces operations. It will be studied for years from now. It's literally the gold standard of how to carry out an attack of this nature 2,000, 3,000 kilometers away from the border with Ukraine. And the sheer spread of the targets, something like 5 Air Force bases across 6,000 kilometers of territory across multiple time zones of the Russian Federation, all of them targeted through this one strategy of weaponizing the logistics chain, planting these Trojan horse kind of containers packed with special quadcopter first-person view drones that were targeting all of these aircraft parked in the open. Ukraine claims something like 40 or 41 of these strategic bombers were destroyed, and they used drones that were costing just about $1,000 each. So you're looking at an operation mounted with such complexity, but using very low-cost tools and sheer human ingenuity.
Operation Spider's Web is perhaps the most audacious attack mounted by Ukraine on Russia in a war that's been on since February 2022. It took 18 months, and let me now explain some of these big numbers. 18 months to plan this operation from the time it was on the drawing board to its execution. 117 drones were launched by Ukraine. 117 drones at 5 different air bases in Russia. And none of these air bases are anywhere close to the Russia-Ukraine border. In fact, when you look at the distances, if this is the border, the closest is about 2,000 kilometers away, and some which are about 4,500 kilometers away. That's the level. And 5 in the north, in the south, in the east, that's how far Russia was targeted by Ukraine. 5 air bases, 41 aircraft destroyed, 41 strategic bombers from the Tu-22 supersonic strategic bombers. Now, they have been used to bomb Ukraine very extensively, and that's actually like the main strategic bomber of the Russian Air Force, and the Tu-95s. Along with that, the A-50 AWACS. Now, AWACS, again, very, very important because they are your eyes in the sky. Advanced Airborne Early Warning Command and Control System. None of this is very inexpensive or cheap. According to Ukraine, their assessment is losses to Russia stand at a staggering $7 billion in one major attack. And this is how massive Ukraine's counterstrike on Russia has been. But will this lead to peace or a massive escalation in Russia's retaliation on Ukraine? And will it be restricted to Ukraine, or is this war now set to expand? That's the biggest question right now.